Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Will Blydenburgh. I'll be presenting today on behalf of Kristen, Cinar, and myself, and we'll be talking about our Suffolk County Gravestone project. Cemeteries represent the legacy of our society, and gravestones in many ways represents the story that each individual has, the role that individual played in our society. So needless to say that the information that we find on the front of gravestones is very important. In many ways, you might even look at cemeteries as the way that we archive our departed. We archive them by name, date, lifespan. We can't always put them in order, of course. There's only one order that they can be put in. Um, but for the purposes of our project, we're going to look a lot at the epitaphs, the artwork, the literature that we sometimes find on these gravestones, particularly these older gravestones. And most importantly, what drives our entire project is the urgency uh, with which we would need to act on a project like this, because the information that we're putting on these gravestones that we have put, hundreds of years ago now, it's actively eroding. We are losing this information. We're losing this literature. We are losing this history. So that would be the need of our grant proposal. We want to save and preserve the information off of the gravestones. We want to digitize that. Um, that's the purpose of our grant. That's the purpose of the Suffolk County Gravestone Project. It's to digitize and mark up this important historical information. Uh, the proposed time span would be about 3 years it would take to do it right. And our collection will serve the Long Island community and many sub-communities of researchers, including history, genealogy, art, literature, archaeology, and we would ideally have a collection flexible enough for people to really apply their own context to the collection as well. Our performance objectives are fairly simple. We'd like to digitize the epigraphs of Suffolk County gravestones from the period of 1637 to 1850, because those are the earliest gravestones that we have around here, and certainly that's the period of time that's most susceptible to erosion. We would like to locate obscure burial grounds that may not be on Google Maps, burial grounds that perhaps someone knows about in a backyard somewhere or off the beaten track somewhere. They do exist. I've heard about them. We would like to, further document them. We want to create a unique metadata schema customized for this information found on gravestones. We want to create records out of digital photos we take of the gravestones. We want to populate a digital library collection that is browsable by location and decade while also being searchable by family name. And I believe that we'll also throw a full text search in there as well, just to capture the literature, the actual sayings on the tombstones. And really, the crutch of it is to promote and share our findings with the general public. We want to be advocates. We want to advocate for preserving our history, our legacy, the legacy of Long Island. The great thing about our project, or one of the many great things, we have an inherent network of historical societies here in Suffolk County. Long Island has a rich history, and many people know it. There are 20 plus historical societies in Suffolk County alone, like over 40 plus throughout Long Island. We'll coordinate with these historical societies. We'll ask them for their guidance, for their input. Maybe they can show us certain areas. They can attract our attention to grave sites that they feel are most important. Um, we'll coordinate with the cemeteries to make, this is obviously when you're working in a cemetery, requires an element of respect and decorum. And the larger community, we'll community source, we'll reach out on social media and I believe that we'll be surprised by the sort of input that just the greater community would be willing to put into this project. Kristen and myself, we would be the principal investigators or the project leaders of the Suffolk County Gravestone project. You can see just how well qualified we are as awesome LIS graduate students from the University of Buffalo. The development cost of our project is relatively low as we can make it. Um, we plan on creating our project through Greenstone, the open source digital library software out of New Zealand. Uh, we would like to register a unique domain name that will redirect to the site where we host it with our sponsoring institution. A digital camera that would meet our needs would probably range around 1,000 to 1,500 minimum. We would need a high resolution scanner for gravestone rubbings, which we'll come back to later. The marketing on social media is free. The gas, of course, is expensive, 1,500 to 2,000, and then the rubbing supplies, which once again we'll come back around to the need for that in a little bit. Images added to this collection will be original digital images taken by the staff and approved public volunteers. Um, Rubbings of deteriorated gravestones will need to be scanned in a high resolution scanner and saved in a digital format. Um, all files will be saved as TIFF files because we need optimum resolution. JPEGs, they usually lose resolution, and with a project like this, where many of these gravestones are already highly deteriorated, we're going to need all the resolution that we can get. The public may submit images, and they would have to be clearly readable. We would reserve the right to put whatever images we get as place markers to be replaced later. So like if someone sends us a gravestone and the image is okay, but it's not ideal, we can put that we can put a record in for now, and then we can update the record with a nice fresh brand new image when we visit the site. One of the toughest things to wrestle with when trying to populate a digital library is copyright law. In our case, the copyright ownership of inscribed intellectual property on gravestones, it only lasts 75 years. So when you consider the fact that the newest gravestone that we'll be using is in 1850, you can see that we're not going to have an issue. So that's why this is prime digital library material. Understandably, some cemeteries discourage stone rubbing. They do this because stone rubbing often exacerbates the erosion that we're battling. That being said, this project is focusing on the data that's on the stone more so than the stone itself. Some of these stones are illegible without rubbing. So these are the stones that we're going to want to do some rubbing on so that we get an image of the art or that we get an image of the writing. This all being said, we will ask our volunteers to contact us if they find a gravestone that needs such treatment. And we, in turn, Kristen and myself, as principal investigators, we will contact the cemetery and we will check their policy, and we'll argue our case, we'll get the approval, and then we'll give the volunteers the go-ahead. Here's an example of the user interface that we'd be using. Very simple, straightforward, streamlined, self-evident as to what the use of this collection is. As we dig deeper into our collection, you'll see a record here, and you'll see that we transcribe everything that's on the stone. So here you have Anne Maria, wife of Jesse Woodhull, probably of the famous Woodhulls up there in the north of Long Island. Died September 30th, 1824, aged 27, so that's pretty young. And then there's a nice little piece of poetry here at the bottom. No more the thoughts which fill the mind with woe, no more the tears of keen sensation flow. For while, perhaps, the hand of God we moan, she swells the anthem at her Father's throne. Now, maybe they pulled that from somewhere, maybe it's original. That would be something that a researcher using our collection would want to dig into. Social media would be a crutch of our project. We would definitely keep a blog detailing each one of our trips. Facebook is important because we can crowdsource a lot of information through Facebook groups. We can reach out to people through there. And Pinterest is going to be a great way to mirror some of our collection and to push some of our collection out into the public eye and to really just create another gateway into our collection. Now, as far as assessment goes, monitoring social media will be key. Tracking impressions, views, interaction, likes, shares, and all that good stuff, just to see how the interest is. We would examine interest in the community by counting the number of voluntary contributions, how many people are helping us. We'll communicate with the historical societies to see if, like, how do they feel that we're doing? What sort of job are we doing? Could we be doing anything different in their professional opinion? We'd want to look for mentions in scholarly articles to see if anyone actually used our information to create something scholarly or interesting out of it. And on top of all this, we'd probably want to run some usability tests of the actual site itself, along with some surveys. So at this point, thanks for sticking with us. Thank you for hearing out our grant proposal. Let us know if you have any questions. Let us know if you're interested in this sort of thing. We're looking forward to hear it. So thank you for watching, everyone. Take care.